get this ball rolling. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Kelly Olchak. I am the managing partner and co-founder of Lindley & Company. Also joining us today from our firm is Chaz Miller, who is our operations manager, and my partner, Becky Gillette, who is co-founder and our dedicated chief compliance officer. For those of you that may not know, Lindley & Company is a private wealth management firm located in Bushnell's Basin, aka Pittsford, New York. We help a handful of families manage their finances, and we are so excited to have you join us today. We have a lot to cover, so I wanted to just cover a few things before we get started. During our session, Chaz is going to be our Vanna White. She's going to help us with questions that you might have. There's a little button, I believe, on your screen called Q&A, and that will allow you to ask questions through the presentation. Please don't feel bad about raising your hand and asking questions. We welcome your participation. We're going to have 3 polls throughout this session. Please feel free to participate in that as well. It will help us know if we're hitting the mark, okay? There are so many things to cover today. Please don't feel like you've got to take a ton of notes. After this presentation, we're going to share 2 handouts with you. One is a synopsis of the rules we're going to cover, and one is just the notes. So there are like, I got to tell you, there's like 100 topics in this new act. So we're going to try just to cover the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Also, whenever we host an education event like this, I always encourage our participants, whether you're a client or not, to schedule a personal one-on-one meeting afterwards, because there's probably some questions here that you want to dig in deeper to. If you are not a client, I do not charge for these one-on-ones. I really enjoy these educational events because I'm putting good karma out into the world. Feel free to make an appointment with us. The other thing to know is I'm a fiduciary. It's actually my second favorite F word. My first one is fun. But I always have to work in your best interest, even though you don't work with me. So feel free and comfortable asking personal questions. So with that, let's get started. So the Secure Act 2.0, Secure stands for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement. So this 2.0 passed in December of last year, and it's making the most significant piece of retirement legislation since the original act that was passed in 2019. As I mentioned, there are so many provisions in this act, but most of these are around retirement plans. So the first thing we have to do is get our arms around the key changes and assess the implications. So like everything, normally I'm not excited about any changes in retirement legislation, but this time is so different. There are 3 things I want you to understand. This benefits investors in so many ways. So it's going to talk about more ways, more time to save, more ways to save, and more ways to use those funds. The challenge, though, is simply understanding the breadth and depth and timing of these changes. Most of these provisions are effective this year, 2023 and 2024, but some are pushed all the way out to 2028. Okay, high level, the Secure Act. As I mentioned, it's far-reaching. So it affects so many different kinds of people in our community, from your grandparents and parents who are thinking about estate plans, to those of us that are close to retirement, those of us that are children of parents who are going to be the recipients of great wealth transfer in the coming decades. The other thing to remember is taxes, and yeah, they can be complicated. They impact our savings, they impact our investments, they impact our retirement plans. But much of these provisions in the new act are very savings friendly, but there is a lot to unpack. So my recommendation for you guys is this. Listen to our presentation. Please know that it's recorded. We're going to post this after the session is over on our website, so you can always go back and review on pieces that may be more relevant to you. Why is this important? In my professional opinion, this act will require all of us to reevaluate our financial plans in order to capture the opportunities that are presented. It's also important to recognize that the US government sees that businesses are a conduit to helping expand and promote these retirement savings through their employees. I want you to understand how the changes will impact you, your family, and if you're a business owner, your business as well. Okay, big caveat, and this is because Becky's on the phone with us or on Zoom with us. Everybody's, and we always laugh about this, everybody's tax situation is different. You should always talk to your tax provider, tax preparer, when you talk about your specific tax situation. I am a private wealth manager. I'm also a certified financial planner, but I do not give tax advice. What I'm going to do is help you understand, and this is how I help our clients now, help you understand the tax code and the rules that could impact your financial planning. And then normally what I help people do is develop a plan to take advantage and take taxes into consideration. So as I mentioned before, we're going to start covering, there are 4 pieces we're going to cover, 4 sections. And I want you to feel comfortable raising your hand and asking questions through this presentation if something hits home and you want a little bit more clarity. I will also tell you that I've done a lot of homework on this, but I don't know all the answers. If there is something that you have a question about and I don't know the answer right away, I promise you, if you let us know what you're interested in, I will get back to you. Okay, so what does this mean to you? So here's number 1. The Secure Act is giving you more time to save for retirement. It provides great opportunities to save and reduce taxes. So what does, more time to save mean? This section will discuss a number of positive changes to age limits, some allowing you to contribute longer to your plan and others allowing, oh, my screen's not shared. Chaz?
No, I was here.
Okay, please hold, because I thought I was sharing my screen. Hang on a second. Thank you, Chaz. There you go. Well, that's embarrassing. Like I said, Chaz is my boss. Chaz, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen.
And notes. I think you need to go into presenting mode.
Okay, let me go and share that screen. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Dee-dee-dee. All right, well, you only missed some cute pictures. But thank you, Chaz, because this is the part that matters most. Okay. So this is the first of 4 keys that we're going to cover. And what we're going to talk about in this section is the Secure Act is giving you more time to save for retirement and provide great opportunities to save and reduce taxes. So what does that mean to you? The best part about this act is it's allowing people to contribute longer to your plan, and others, it'll allow you to hold off on making mandatory withdrawals. Okay, so let's take one more look. So for those of you that may know, before this rule was changed, savers were forced to withdraw money from their IRAs starting at age 70 and a half, whether you liked it or not. Those withdrawals are called required minimum distributions. We like to say RMD because that's a mouthful. Changes in the RMD requirement is one of the reasons I am so excited about this, because the Secure Act is now increasing the age you start taking your distributions all the way up to 70 and a half. So it used to be at 75. It used to be at 70 and a half. You'd have to start taking your distributions. Now, currently, if you are taking required minimum distributions, RMDs now, you've got to continue with your existing schedule. So if you were born before 1951 and turning 72 in 2022, you should still take your first required minimum distribution in April of this year. So as you see in this chart, there's a second row here, and that's for individuals who are turning 72 in 2023. Your RMD is pushed back a year. So you will not have to start taking your RMD until you're 73. And then that age 73 will continue to be the age where RMDs begin all the way to 2032. Then, beginning in 2033, RMDs will be pushed back to a further age of 75. Okay, so it's worth noting, you're going to see on this little diagram here on the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little asterisk by 1959. Hang on, I'm going to sneeze, of course. And we found that there is sort of there's an error in the rule. So we have confirmed that's a mistake. We believe it's going to be changed because it basically says that folks starting their RMD at the age of, folks that were born in year 1959, there's this little overlap where you have to take it at 73 and 75. We know that that's going to be rectified. That's just a technical correction. So let's just keep that age group, okay, from 1951 to 1959, you are going to start your RMD at 73. And then the last row is for those born in 1960 and later. Your RMDs will start at 75. So why is that awesome? Couple things. It gives your money more time to grow, potentially, depending on the year. Happy 2022. Tax deferred. Remember how sometimes your IRA gets so big that your balances, when you have to take your distribution later in the future, your tax consequences could have a large effect on a lot of things. So what we want to do is, this is one of the reasons why we think having a one-on-one meeting is helpful, because your situation may be different. There are ways to address this. Another big bummer of the old rule used to be failure to take your RMD out in time. Before this rule changed, if you did not take your RMD out on time, you would have a 50% penalty. That's awful. Now, this penalty has been reduced to 25% with a 3-year look back, and further to only 10% if you correct it quickly. Okay. So that is about required minimum distributions for pre-tax dollars. The act also changes how Roth 401ks, Roth 403bs, Roth 457s are attached. It used to be that if you kept your money in a 403b, 401k, 457, you were supposed to start taking mandatory RMDs. That's gone away. People would decide to move their Roth accounts out of their 401ks to an IRA to avoid that. What's nice about this option, you don't have to leave your 401k, 403b, and 457 to protect those tax-deferred savings. So Chaz is going to share our first poll for today. Chaz, could you do that for us? Okay. This question is going to help us understand if we're covering a lot of stuff. So if you could let us know what you think on this, that'd be great. Chaz, how are we doing? Okay.
We are good. I was gonna leave that open for about a minute.
All right.
We're at 40 seconds, so then I will end that poll.
Awesome. Okay. Tell me when. Thank you. Okay, so that's great. Thank you for that great feedback. Wonderful. This is the first time we've ever used polling in our webinars, so it's the blind leading the blind, but it looks like we did it right. Right. Okay. So the rules for surviving spouses and beneficiaries have also changed. The primary benefit of the new rule would apply to older surviving spouses who now can assume a deferred RMD start date. Okay, what does this mean? RMDs for older spouses would be delayed until the deceased spouse would have reached their age of RMD. What that means is if you were older than your spouse and he or she was not taking the required minimum distribution, you as a surviving spouse would not have to take their RMD on your age, which is very good. The benefit means you have, if you don't need the money, you don't have to take the withdrawal, which allows your deceased spouse to that account to still grow. Also, God forbid, if the surviving spouse passed away before the RMD began, the new 10-year RMD disbursement rules do not apply. What that means is the eligible designated beneficiaries of the deceased spouse payout is stretched. We'll talk about that a little bit. And it's stretched over the eligible designated beneficiaries' lifetime. Here's another really good one. So previously, you could only contribute to your IRA up until you were 70 and a half. And then you would be forced to start taking withdrawals from your account. The new legislation gives those who want to keep working longer more opportunities to save and potentially to create a larger nest egg. So they're not going to be forced, if you're working, you're not going to be forced to take distribution from your IRA. Okay, enhanced catch-up. So if you have a 401k, 403b, an IRA, a simple IRA, you've always been able to, after you're 50 years or older, contribute an additional amount, and that's called catch-up. So first in 2024, catch-ups will be adjusted for inflation. This is such good news. You know, I know everybody knows that we haven't really seen inflation since the 80s, and we all know what it feels like to buy eggs now. But this part of the act is terrific because the adjustment will be part of our retirement savings option moving forward. So second, starting in 2025, I should say, I think I got that wrong. Yep, 2025. A special enhanced contribution has been created for a very, very narrow amount of folks, ages 60 to 63. So this gets a little weird, but Chaz and I have worked real hard to kind of break down the legalese. For those of you that don't know Chaz, she's weird and she like reads documents, fine prints. So she's pretty good at this. So the enhanced bracket means that instead of being able to put $7,500 away as a catch-up, you could now put $10,000 away. And that's for a 401k and a 403b. If you have a simple, it's $5,000. To put this into perspective, the catch-up contribution right now for a 401k and a 403b for people who are over 50 is $7,500. And a simple, it's $3,500. So with this new rule going into play in 2025, that's a considerable amount of additional dollars you can put into your retirement savings. Then there's this thing, what does 150% mean? Basically what it means is if inflation goes up, so does the catch up. It's not like the government can write things in plain English, right? So I know this is a little weird, but meaning I can't understand why the government wouldn't let you have the catch up until you're 65, but at least we have a couple extra years. Chance, are there any questions at all?
We did have one question about the RMD changes.
Okay.
Can you explain a little bit about what impact that would have on someone with an existing inherited IRA?
That is something that's one-on-one because there are a lot of moving parts in that. And we don't know. So if you had your inherited, if you received your inherited IRA before 2020, the rules are different than if you got it afterwards. And that's why a one-on-one would be real important, because there are a few clarifying questions I'd want to ask before I answer that better. Is that
Thank you.
helpful? Okay.
Yes.
Great. So this chart, this is a little bit of a visual that might help a little bit better on the new catch-ups. So if you're 49 years or younger, there's no catch-up available. The standard catch-up will apply. This is for now, but then it's going to change to that $10,000. So from 50 to 59 and 64 and older, that's the head scratcher I've got. Your catch-up is going to be $7,500. And then you've got that bracket of people that are 60 to 63 that now could do $10,000 or that 150% of standard. And what that means again is if inflation goes up, so does your catch-up. But the bottom line is that the rule changes allow for participants in 401ks, 403bs, simple plans to contribute more to their plan each year. So if you can keep setting aside money each year, that's great news. You'll defer taxes and grow more savings for your retirement. Good. Okay. So these new rules make me think I should consider putting more money away. Well, yep, that's a good idea. That's what this act is all about. So we're going to talk about a couple things coming forward. This is the next, the second key on this one. We're going to talk about how Roth plans are changed at work. We're going to talk about auto enrollment in your employer plans, help for part-time employees, and also help for young families and professionals. Aside from more time of saving, the Secure Act now provides more options to invest for your retirement. All right. So retirement changes at work for Roth accounts. I really like this part of the legislation. I like to call it the Great Rothification. There are a significant number of changes related to Roth accounts, both on the personal IRA side as well as the employer-sponsored plans. So as a reminder, there are two types of retirement accounts. Pre-tax dollar accounts, those are your IRAs, your 401ks, your 403bs. These accounts, these contributions into these accounts reduce your taxes. Then once they're in there, they have the potential to grow in a tax-deferred manner. Then there are Roths, and Roths, so now there are Roth 401ks, Roth IRAs, of course, Roth 401ks, 403bs, there are a lot of fours, sorry guys, 457s. These dollars that you contribute to the account, to your retirement accounts, they do not reduce your taxes. When you withdraw them, except in certain circumstances, any distribution that you take out is not taxed. And like the pre-tax account, the growth inside of the Roth enjoys tax deferred growth. So what's changed? Okay. So clearly, starting in 2023, the addition of employer contributions to Roth, that's the biggie. It's allowing your employer to make Roth contributions to your Roth. Beforehand, only you could, as a participant, make Roth contributions. So it gives, if your employer decides to allow this, it allows them to contribute to your Roth. Now they have a choice. However, it's important to note it's not mandatory or automatic for employers. So offering that matching after-tax contribution to the company Roth plan is entirely at their discretion. The other thing to note is for those folks that make more than $145,000, your only option from your employer is to have them help you with the catch-up contribution. Okay, we can go into detail on that more later if you need help. So the other neat thing, and I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about RMDs, the RMDs from these Roth type accounts, your 401k, 403b, 457, those are eliminated, started in 2024. So you don't need to roll your Roth portion out of your retirement plan, your employer retirement plan, just because you don't want to stretch or you don't want to be forced to take distribution. Chaz, do we have any questions on that so far? Great. Okay. Okay, more about the great Rothification, but now we're going to talk about SEP and simple plans. Many of you may not know that there are other types of retirement plans. SEP and simple plans are typically for small businesses. For the Secure Act, they've added two options for Roth contributions, one for the SEP, one for the simple. Although, again, it won't be a requirement for your employer to put money in place. If they add the option, it's there for you to take advantage of it. The other neat thing is if you have household employees, a nanny, a cleaning person, they are eligible now for a SEP IRA, which is pretty cool. Once again, there are always good reasons to roll a simple or a SEP investment for yourself, an account out into a regular Roth, because when your employer sets up the retirement accounts, you have limited options on things you can do. So again, this is one of those one-on-one conversations. The other thing to know is even though this is eligible for 2023, it might take your employer a little while to get this rocking. Okay. Auto enrollment. This is a way for, okay, so for those of you that don't know it, auto enrollment is a way for retirement plans to automatically sign up employees who are contributing to retirement plans. When this occurs, the employee's contributions will be allocated to an age-based fund. Think like target date 2020, 2023. And that means that the automatic dollars that they're pulling out of your paycheck goes into a target date that's appropriate for your retirement age. So if you're young, the target age is going to be like later. But if you're like me, 57, it might be the target date of like 2030. Starting in 2025, to encourage retirement savings. This has been such a good thing for folks. It's really helped 401k balances increase. What the, hang on a second, I'm gonna, pardon me. I knew that was going to happen. Oh. So some people don't like the idea of auto enrollment. And like me, you're not the boss of me, but you will have, of course, I'm going to call. I'm so sorry. So your employer may put your money into your new 401k, but you will always have the opportunity to opt out. So some people may not want to participate, but generally speaking, the small amount that you contribute before taxes doesn't hurt as much as one would think. So here's how it works. Oh my God. In year one, the employer will determine how much of your salary they can contribute, they can allow you to contribute to set aside. And it'll start with a group like 3% to 10%. In year two, it'll go from 3% to 15%, and then every year after that, it will bump up 1% annually. You can still log in and make a change, log into your retirement plan account and change how much you contribute. So it's not like you don't have control over it. And I read a study that showed that auto enrollment has really increased 401k balances. So this is one of the reasons why Congress thought that this was a really good idea. And again, the earlier you start putting money away, the more you'll have at retirement. This is a very good time for you to look at your own 401k savings and consider if you're saving enough. I've found in our meetings with our clients and prospective clients, they don't really know what their investments are in their 401k. And lately I have seen some folks have 100% of their investments in stock only. And boy, wow, last year was really bumpy. So if you'd like us to look at how you're invested, please let us know. I know we can help. The other thing is, for small business owners, not everybody is supposed to do this. So there are businesses that are exempt from this auto enrollment requirement. So those are companies like employers that are less than 3 years old, church plans, government plans, simple plans, employers with 10 employees or less. Chaz, are there any questions on that? Okay, good. So the other neat thing, which is really good news, is that part-time workers can be included now in retirement savings. So employers with a 401k plan must allow employees to contribute to their plan once they've worked at least 500 hours for 3 years or 1,000 hours throughout the year. This is especially good for people that are like stay-at-home moms and they might work at school, between the time they get the kids on the bus and off the bus, or caregivers. But here's a caveat. If you are a part-time employee, you need to check with your employer about when your 500 hours start and end, because it may not be a calendar year. It may be a fiscal year. So if your employer's year end is like September to September is when the 500 hours start. Okay. This is a really good thing to help with emergency savings. So in our practice, when we help people with financial planning, some people will say, well, I've got this extra money. I don't know what to do with it. The first thing I always tell them is, I'm not going to touch any of your money until I know you've got an uh-oh bucket. And this legislation really is great for new families, young professionals. Unfortunately, highly compensated individuals are not eligible, and I've got a little blurb down here to explain who that is. The money must be held in cash or an equivalent, like a money market, and participants must have monthly access to these funds. So what I've learned is not a lot of people understand having that set aside for a rainy day. This emergency savings account is so good because it provides a way to regularly set $1,000 away every year for that, oh no, my water heater broke. So they're only allowing us to put $1,000 annually into it. It's a very good start, okay? The definition of what qualifies for emergency withdrawal is very broad and seems to account for many circumstances. That being said, distribution for an emergency bachelorette party probably will not qualify, okay? So real high level for highly compensated individuals, my research, what I did was find out the definition is not who is, but who is not. So the definition of who is not a highly compensated individual is they do not own 5% interest in the business. These are 2023 numbers, by the way. They did not receive more than $135,000 last year, or they are not in the top 20% of compensation. So that highly compensated individual variable is something you should look at if you think you might be. Okay, this is so cool. our government has gotten very creative on how to help people with things that they see on the horizon being an issue. And obviously student loans are certainly one of those things. So available to employers in 2024, there are new student loan repayment matches where employers can help employees who are paying off student loans. Okay, so I think this was going to have some questions. So this is one that I need to dig in deeper because it's a little fuzzy. So the way they're laying it out is an employer can make a matching contribution on behalf of their employee in a 401k, 403b, 457, or a simple IRA, which with respect to qualified student loan repayments. So we got to define that, qualified student loan repayments. The vesting and matching schedules must be the same as if the loans had been a salary deferral. And I got to tell you, I think I'm going to see a lot of employers adopting this provision into their plans because it's going to attract a lot of young talent. Okay. In addition to young earners can start contributing to an IRA with an expanded definition of earned income. So my husband, when he got his master's, he was a TA and he had a stipend, but he really didn't have any income. They covered his expenses and room and board. So a great example of what this is the stipend and non-tuition fellowship payments to graduate and postdoctoral students will count as earned income. This means a postdoc or a grad student can contribute to an IRA. That's huge. It's good news because students who want to begin accumulating tax-favored savings, they can start sooner than later. So Chaz is going to present us with the second poll for today. Thank you, Chaz.
You are welcome. And while I leave that open for about a minute, we did have one question about the emergency funds.
Okay.
And it was, is that pre-tax?
So that is one of those fuzzy bits. Chaz, can you make a note of that? Because that I knew that was something like that was going to come up. It's a very good question. And the language that I've read doesn't articulate if it's pre-tax or not. I'm assuming that it's not, but because the employer is involved, I got to dig into that. Thank you. That's a very good question.
And thank you, because I answered it saying it was gross and I did not know it was not clearly defined.
Yeah.
But we will confirm.
So you let me know when we are gonna post those results and then we can move forward.
I am doing that right now.
Awesome. This is really good stuff. Thank you, guys. This is very good feedback. Terrific. Okay. So moving along. The new legislation has made sweeping changes to how you can use your money. So we're going to talk about 529 conversions. From 529 conversions to funding long-term care in this section, which is super cool. All right. I know we all want to feel really smart, responsible about how we handle our money. So I'm going to talk about other ways that you can use this money. You have some new options for making charitable donations more tax efficient. Also, you're going to be able to maximize your college saving accounts, 529 plans, in a new and interesting way, which is very clever. And there's some new reasons you can take money from your retirement account to pay for things you need without penalty, without a withdrawal penalty. Okay, so first, if you are, so some of you may know and be familiar with what a charitable qualified charitable distribution is, but if you're not, A QCD is where you can rewind. Qualified charitable distributions were introduced in 2006 to help people who are over 70 and a half pay their required minimum distribution by making a charitable gift with money out of their IRA. If certain rules are met, they can directly transfer up to $100,000 annually from their IRA to a qualified charity. Qualified charity is important, remember that, of your choice. And again, that donation will help you meet your RMD for the year. Now, what's really neat is effective in 2024, even though the maximum transfer right now is $100,000, it will be adjusted for inflation each year. Now, it's very important to note that it has to be a qualified charitable donation. So it's best to talk to your tax preparer to help you figure out if the organization you want to benefit is qualified, because there are some private foundations that are ineligible for donations. So that's very important to figure out. Here's something really cool, you guys. Use 529 accounts to pay off student loans. Super neat. So this rule change allows you to use money originally set aside for your kids' college, but now you can help them pay off their student loan instead of dipping into your retirement savings to help them with that. Investors who have a 529 education savings plan can now withdraw up to $10,000 to repay a student loan. This is a really great way for parents and grandparents to help with student loan debt. Additionally, and I love this one too, a related change is that 529 plan monies can also be used for apprenticeship programs because not all kids go to college. The apprenticeship program has to be registered with the Department of Labor, but now you can actually help your kid through the apprentice program with those dollars you may have saved in the past. Chaz, are there any questions? Okay.
No.
So this is also really creative. And who thought that the government could be this super cool and creative, right? If you anticipate having money left over from your kid's 529 plan, this new rule will make it easier to save for your kids' college and jumpstart the retirement savings. So here are the details. And this one might be a little ticklish also, so feel free to reach out to us if you want more fine details, but high level. Excess funds in a 529 can be rolled over directly to a Roth IRA for the child that is the beneficiary on the 529. That beneficiary needs to have earned income. As with other rollovers, you're not going to be taxed when you move it from the 529 to the Roth. But then once in the Roth, it's going to grow tax deferred until it's withdrawn. Tax deferred, not taxed. Tax deferred means any growth in the Roth will not be taxed while it's in the Roth. When it comes out, your distribution, all of it, the original amount and any gains, those are tax-free. So beginning in 2024, you will be able to roll over a period of time up to $75,000 from your child's 529 into their Roth. It's not $35,000 in a lump sum. This year, the Roth contribution max is $6,500 if you're younger than 50. So if you wanted to make sure they got the 35 grand, you'd have to do it over a couple of years. And if the contribution limit goes up, so does the amount you can put in every year. Another benefit, and this is very big, another benefit to this rule is that there are no income limits for participants. Meaning, if you're a high earner, if you're single and make more than $144,000, or if you're married filing jointly, making $223,000, you can't make a contribution to the Roth. That's why the Roth 401k, 403b, and 457 was so awesome, because it doesn't have an income amount where you can't contribute. However, with this transfer, there are some strings attached. First, your 529 has to be in place for 15 years before it's eligible for this rollover, 15 years, okay? Money added over the past 5 years cannot be used. If you max out the 529 transfer to the Roth, let's say this year it's $65,000, $6,500, and your kid wants to also contribute and you've already maxed it out, they can't add any more funds. They're capped for the year, okay? But the bottom line is lots of flexibility, guys. You can keep all the funds in the 529 without penalty. If you like, until you take the money out, the 529 to pay for their education, or you can take your excess and benefit them. The other thing, if you have more than that left over, you could always change the beneficiary to your grandchild. Okay, so there are lots of options. Any questions on that, Chaz?
No, there is none.
All right. This one is also super awesome. There have been so many changes in long-term care insurance over the past decade, and one thing that hasn't changed is how much you need it and how much it costs. This part of the act addresses kind of creative ways to help people pay for their long-term care insurance. So there are several new items that have been added to the list of penalty-free withdrawals that you're allowed to take out before you're 59 and a half. So the penalty is from an IRA 10%, and then you get taxed. So if you took money out of your IRA to pay for long-term insurance, you're still going to have to pay the taxes on it, but you're not getting hit with that extra 10%. And paying for long-term insurance is so awesome to be able to do that with these dollars, because a couple things. We get older, we'll encounter more health events. Long-term care insurance tends to pay for in-home medical assistance or nursing facilities. The high cost of unplanned critical illness or healthcare crisis can be very catastrophic, as I'm sure you know. And Medicare does not cover much. Okay, now, I just said the M word, Medicare. We will be hosting another seminar later in the year to discuss Medicare in detail. So if you want us to include you in that on that event, please send Chaz a note in the chat and she'll add you to the list. So a couple things about this part of the rule. We need clarity around from the IRS. In the act, it says high quality long-term care. The law is very vague. Sorry, high quality long-term care insurance, and the law is very vague. So we need some clarification on that. And again, this is one of those things that's very, very personal. So if you want to talk about ways to cover long-term, first adult conversation today, long-term care insurance, let Chaz know and we'll get you on the calendar. Our last poll, Chaz, can you post that? Thank you. This is a very hard one. How are we doing?
Doing good.
Thank you.
I'm going to end that one and share.
Nice. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I know we're running really close to being done here, so I'm going to try and step it up. The rest of the rules are not as detailed. So there is an option for new parents to withdraw penalty-free. Again, they're still going to have to pay taxes on it, but they can take $5,000 each, husband and wife, or spouse and spouse, partner and partner, can take $5,000 each penalty-free out of their retirement accounts to help with qualified birth or adoption costs. They have to meet the requirement, the individual must take a distribution from the retirement account within 1 year of the date of birth or the date of which adoption has been finalized. Okay, so last one. Unfortunately, the rules have changed in a less favorable manner over the past couple of years. So our fourth key point is your kids can still inherit from your IRA. It's just the way they have to receive those distributions is much shorter now. It's in 10 years. So in 2029, the rules changed tremendously. And we call it the death of the stretch IRA. It used to be that your kids, when they inherited, this is before 2020, your children could stretch their distribution over their lifetime. But now they must take the money out of the inherited IRA or the inherited Roth within 10 years of the death of the original owner. So the big thing is that this can really affect how our beneficiaries, where the taxes are going to hit. So if I just had to do this, your FAFSA forms, that inherited IRA is included in that FAFSA amount. And if they're applying for college, it can limit what your offering is, as well as some tax credits. Now, there are no rules about how to draw down the account. It just has to be completely out of the inherited account within 10 years. So the beneficiary could take some out every year, or they could wait till the last year. But planning is so necessary, because when the dollars come out of the IRA, the pre-tax IRA, those are tax-like income. So it can affect tax bracket. So this is another good reason, especially if you have a large IRA, to do some estate planning. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. There are some exceptions to the rule. We talked a little bit about eligible designated beneficiaries. So who are these people? Surviving spouses, disabled or chronically ill beneficiaries, those who are not more than 10 years younger than the original owner, and minor children. So for minor children, there is a stretch option, which means that their clock doesn't start, their 10-year clock doesn't start until they hit adulthood, but they could still take money out until then. But once they hit age of majority, the 10-year clock starts. Other than the children, for the rest of the eligible designated beneficiaries, the stretch IRA is mostly business as usual. What that means is they can take distribution across their lifetime. The new rule does not apply to people who have already inherited an IRA prior to 2020. So don't get nervous in the service if you have. So here's what we've learned about the death of the stretch IRA. And this is our last slide for today. The real reason for these changes, particularly death of the stretch IRA, is that tax planning is so important. Congress is looking for ways to raise revenues. And so one way to do that is eliminate tax breaks. We may see other changes before time comes for you to take, for you to retire past your estate. I mean, tax code can change anytime. But for many years, people have been relying on their IRAs, and we had such a great bull, like I think it was more than 10 years of bull market, that those accounts have gotten very big. And that the problem is one day the tax bill is going to come due. And I've got some clients that are not looking forward to taking their RMDs out because their tax bill is going to be enormous. This is why a tax professional is so important. And this is also why I don't give tax advice, but I do collaborate and coordinate our financial plans with your tax professional. So what we can do to help you is develop a retirement income plan so you draw down your accounts in a smart way. Some of these strategies could be Roth conversions, managing your tax bracket, reviewing your beneficiaries, including trusts, to create a more tax efficient estate plan that works best for you. So, and I did it right at 1 o'clock. I'm so excited. Hopefully we've helped you with some questions that, or some issues that are coming up with this new strategy. You're probably wondering what comes next. Okay, so everybody's different, but here are the 4 things that we covered. And by the way, as I mentioned before, this session will be recorded, or is being recorded, and we'll repost it on our website. So we will send all of you links so you can come back to it. We're also going to send you the notes from our meeting today, as well as the rules. So hopefully that'll help. And like I said, everybody's situation is different. My firm, we work closely with our clients' attorneys and accountants and sort of coordinate the plan. So we hope that this has been super helpful. Chaz, do we have any questions?
We do not, but if anyone thinks about this a little bit later and then has questions, please feel free to email Kelly or myself. And if it's just a quick answer, we can reply, or we can set up a meeting if you want to go into more detail.
Great. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So thanks, guys. We have a couple more sessions coming in the next couple months. We're going to do an update on Social Security, an update on tax planning for 2024, also a Medicare discussion, and those have always been very well received. So keep your eyes posted on that. And if we can help, please don't worry about reaching out. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks.